Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Great Minecraft Race YouTube channel. Today, I am thrilled that we have got a very special guest for an interview. Project Flamingo's own Chief Operating Officer, Lou Stone. How are you today?
I'm great. How are you, Ryan?
I'm doing very, very well, thank you. Excited that we get to talk about another one of our partner charities. It's one of my many joys when TGMR time comes around. So, firstly, Chief Operating Officer, what does that mean that you do at Project Flamingo?
We sort of anecdotally refer to me as the Swiss Army knife.
Okay.
Because there are many things. I mean, as an NGO, generally, you tend to be quite lean because cost saving and fundraising is sort of the name of the game. So
Mhm.
I have the privilege actually to work across the medical side of things. So observe surgeries, plan all of our operations out, etc. But also on the fundraising side, the marketing side, the governance side of things. I mean, an NGO has many departments, and I have the privilege to kind of go through all of them.
Hence why you're here with us today. It's a pleasure to be
Exactly.
speaking to you. So, can you give me a little bit of a background about Project Flamingo, how it started, and then maybe where you fit in, where you came into the project?
Absolutely. So we started 15 years ago, which is quite a long time, I think, for a NGO to be around. In South Africa, we have many challenges, especially in the public health sector. The system is challenged in many ways. We have high patient volumes, lower resources, funding that gets cut all the time. So NGOs like ourselves fulfill a sort of bridging the gap role,
Hmm.
essentially. So we look
Yeah.
at critical gaps in breast cancer space specifically. And 50 years ago, it got sparked. Our founder basically was a young registrar at a local hospital in Cape Town, and she would see the same patients come around without getting treated. So they'll have a breast symptom, they'll go away. 3 months later, they'll be back at the hospital, and she'd be like, "Have you had your surgery? Have you had treatment?" And nothing would have happened.
Right.
And she realized there was this gap, especially around surgeries. And she raised funds with her wine/book club, and they did the first surgeries 15 years ago at Groote Schuur Hospital, which is our biggest academic tertiary hospital in the Western Cape. And here we are, 16 years later, we do about 309 a year, and we've expanded multiple services across the care continuum.
Mm.
Breast cancer it's not a walk in, walk out type of disease. You have a journey. Everybody's journey looks different. People have different treatment modalities they go through. And very often, I always refer to it as a bit of it's a weird one, but a production line.
Okay.
And if anything, you have to go through certain steps to get to the end. And if there's a holdup at one of those steps, your entire treatment program or treatment regime gets kind of backlogged.
Mhm.
And the more people stand in line, the longer you wait. So we go into those specific treatment modalities, whether it's surgery, CT scans, chemotherapy, whatever. We enable services by funding either human resource or products, or I mean consumables or services, and we go in and we alleviate that pressure on the
Mhm.
system so that more people can flow through. And that's what we've been doing for 15 or almost 16 years now.
That's amazing. It's always fun for me to find out about the startings of these charities because you
Yes.
just never know. A wine and book club, sure, absolutely,
Yeah.
why not? And now into this absolute powerhouse that you guys have become since then. I do
Yeah.
want to just mention you touched on it there in that
Yeah.
explanation, but obviously we're raising money for you guys, and from an
Yeah.
interest standpoint, where exactly does that money go? What exactly does that money fund?
Yes. So we have three focus areas, and we generally look after. As I explained earlier, it's an entire care continuum. You can't just look after one side of it. So we take a very holistic approach, and we fundamentally believe it's a patient's right, human right, first of all, to have a dignified, timely, holistic treatment. So the funding goes exactly to that. The three main programs we run are of what we're probably quite most famous for in South Africa, if famous is a thing that you can be as an NGO, is our surgical catch-up surgery program. So when you have breast cancer, very often you need a surgery, and those surgery backlogs are severe in our
Mhm.
country. And we basically fund with the help of pro bono surgeons and anaesthetists, and we fund nursing staff, etc. We go on a Saturday when the state is not operating. We utilize the surgery space in select hospitals and essentially get women on the slates and get them operated. So, and we do that across now 6 hospitals in 3 provinces. So
Wow.
that's our surgery program. So one could argue X amount, you can go look on our website. The cost per surgery, but X amount will contribute to a surgery being done. Then we've got what we call our patient support program. It's the holistic view we take very much takes into account the emotional well-being of a woman or a patient. We always say medical support or medical treatment and emotional support have to go hand in hand, and they're equally important. It's often the darkest time of someone's life, and to know that they're seen and cared for and looked after is a major thing.
Mhm.
We have pamper packs, which are these little beautiful feminine essential packs that we hand out to all newly diagnosed patients. We've got food parcels because very often there's a shortage of nutrition. Some of our chemotherapy patients, and then we also fund psychological services, proper therapy like psychotherapy for patients that are really suffering severely. And our third program is what we call health system strengthening, and that is when we go into the hospital, we work with the existing infrastructure, the existing people, and we say, where are your gaps? Where are you struggling to get people through and to get patients managed? They'll say it's a CT scan, they'll say it's an echocardiogram, whatever that modality and treatment regime is. We then go in and we fund those gaps for a specific point of time. It's not forever, it's for that period to say, get them through, let's work on the backlog. And then once it's resolved, we move on to the next thing. So those are our
Wow.
three main focus area in breast cancer, specifically in these three provinces.
Yeah, for sure. And so I did have a question written down, but you've kind of almost answered it there in the fact that you fully are along with the patients throughout their journey from the minute that they're diagnosed right the way through, even beyond treatment, right? Project Flamingo is there holding their hand almost.
Yes, yes. We often say, one of the things that what makes us different is that holistic approach.
Mm.
You very often get you get NGOs that work in the early detection space, which means they focused on detecting the disease. We go from that onwards and we walk that journey with them. And then afterwards, generally, our patient support teams that are also made up of volunteers, they visit patients at the hospital. They very often have their numbers afterwards. They very often have WhatsApp groups. Very often the patients who get admitted together for their surgeries would make friends and have sort of a beautiful support group from there. And it's
Wow.
really that those are the things when we get emails, when we get responses from patients, people that has been through our program, they would generally say that was the moment I realized I wasn't alone, and that was the moment everything changed for me. And for us, that's you can't put a price on that.
No,
That's
that's all you
beautiful.
want, isn't it? That's
Yes.
exactly the kind of response that the people should be giving. Of course, it's a tough time in their lives. So to find a little bit of joy or a little bit of,
Yes.
yeah, spark. Wow.
Mm,
Incredible.
mm.
Well, I want to switch gears a little bit because although we do have a growing women and girls space in
Yes.
esports and gaming, it is predominantly male dominated in the space that we
Mm-hmm.
operate. And
Mm-hmm.
I was wondering if you could give us some information, maybe your take on why our male followers, why our male particular fans and players should
Mm.
worry, should care about breast cancer research and breast cancer treatment.
Mm. First of all, I don't know how many people know this, but men can also get breast cancer. It's
Mm,
a very small percentage. It's 0.5 to 1%, I think, depending on which country you're at or in. And for that reason, especially when there's genetic family history, it's important that men also do self-examinations. It's not often spoken about. It's not as widely publicized. But I think that first and foremost for me is a very important thing to take care of. We actually
sure.
operate on men as well. We've had male patients, so although 98% is women, we do not we understand that males are also part of the equation.
Of course.
Secondly, if you're in a relationship with a woman, as an example, and very often breast cancer is detected by the partner.
Mm,
So what, we don't think about this, but it's if you're in a relationship with someone, the chances of you walking that journey with them or detecting the disease yourself by feeling a lump or whatever, that is it's crucial to understand then what lies ahead and what that journey is. And thirdly, I think what's important is when we take women, when women go through a disease like this and we take them out of society, in South Africa specifically, they're very often the breadwinners, they the care primary caretakers, they are the pillars of society, they are the teachers, they are the mothers, the sisters, they make up half of our society. And when
yeah.
they are disproportionately affected by a disease like breast cancer, it becomes a male issue because it will affect your life.
Mm,
in some or other way. These are your mothers, your sisters, your aunts, your nieces. So it's a societal issue, it's a human rights issue. And I think if we, just like women should familiarize with male cancers, I feel it's very important for men to bear in mind, the kind of diseases that disproportionately affect women, and what they go through, especially as family members and partners.
Absolutely. And I think that was one of the things that made me so excited when we got the opportunity to partner with you
Mm-hmm.
guys, is raising these issues to
Yes.
more people, and certainly more people on the male side. As I say, we have a very strong female following as well, but
Mm.
specifically those guys who kind of look around and go, Project Flamingo, breast cancer, why do I care? That's a wonderful, wonderful response and answer. And one of the reasons that we love to do these interviews as well, to find out
Yeah.
exactly from the horse's mouth, so to speak. So switching back to Project Flamingo specifically, last year you launched a brilliant campaign called Make Room for Her. Can you give us an idea of what that campaign is, how it started, and what the end goal is for Make Room for Her?
Yes, that the names. Just to give you an example of where this started, we were at a oncology unit or a ward in the Eastern Cape, one of our provinces, at Livingston Hospital, and we realized there were no curtains around the beds. The basins weren't working. There was a couple of things that were really not making it a dignifying space or a space for healing. Imagine going for an operation and your room doesn't have curtains, or now it's quite open for everyone. And we kind of launched that, what we would call a makeover project. And as part of that project, we came up with the name Make Room for Her, as in the physical room,
Yeah.
the ward room. And then we realized, after sort of starting to tinker with the basins and doing the curtains, we realized, actually, this is what we do. We make room in in waiting lines. We make room in conversation. We make room when when we advocate for women, when we change policy around cancer in South Africa. That's actually a great tagline for the work we do. Never mind the fact that we're putting curtains around beds. So we kind of adopted it as our little slogan, and then we realized, well, this is actually brilliant when it comes to campaigns like yourselves, etc. It's a nice way to explain to someone, you're physically making room. You're physically saying there's a bum on a seat that we need to get in. We need to get people in line. So and also holistically, and more sort of on a more philosophical scale, one could say, when we make room for her, we make room for everyone. So that was the idea behind the campaign. And essentially now we're using it as this tagline in whatever way, shape, or form. People might come to us and say, we want to do the Cape Argus, not Cape Argus, Cape Town cycle tour, which is a big cycle tour we have, or run the Cape Town Marathon or whatever. We say, here's your Make Room for Her t-shirt, go.
Oh, there you go.
Tell the story. So that's where the campaign came from.
I love it. I just saw it while I was going through the news on the website, and I thought that's definitely something that we want to bring up. And the fact that it's turned into something much bigger, I totally agree. It sends the message of Project Flamingo so well. One last question from me then. Of course, I've said it before during this interview, but I'll say it again. We are so proud to be supporting Project Flamingo down in South Africa. You guys are doing fantastic work. How do events like ours, and people going and doing other events like marathons and stuff, benefit charities like yourselves?
Look, Ryan, there's an obvious monetary
Sure.
thing around the donation, which, as I said in the beginning, we're lean. We go for fundraisings. We typically do what any other NGO will do. But more importantly, and I think this is where for us it becomes, our messaging is very much one around, people need to talk about what women in our public health sector specifically, and I can't speak for the rest of the world, but this is where we work currently, what they go through when diagnosed, and what the issues are that they face, and how hard organizations like ourselves have to work to ensure that equitable, timely, holistic, compassionate care, the things that we would think is part and parcel of a service, how hard we work to bring that to a patient cohort or a woman in the sector. So for us, it's important that people have the conversation, that they say, look, health isn't guaranteed. I think if we look at what's happening in the world right now, health, for those who believe that it's a fundamental human right, might feel a little bit threatened at this point. We don't ever want people to feel that they are forgotten, or not seen, or do not have access to the basic human right that we fundamentally believe in. So for us, it's exceptionally important that the conversation, never mind the funding, but that the conversation is driven around how common breast cancer is. 1 in 8 women in their lifetime. That's kind of global stats at the moment. How patients are I mean, I don't want to put words in stats in people's mouth, but there are a younger cohort of patients that we're seeing that, needs attention.
Sure.
There's a breast cancer in young women foundation, which people can go and check out. It's a global movement. They do wonderful work across the world. They are flagging this as an issue, and that the conversation drives around what is disproportionately affecting women and why are women dying unnecessarily. So for us, that is that's crucial, that the conversation happens. So events like these, someone might sit next to you and say, "Oh, that's an interesting shirt. Tell me about it," and then we want that conversation to happen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we hope to be providing that conversation and giving that conversation as many times as we can. And I will sing it from the rooftops, certainly, because it's so important. It genuinely is so important. And that's why we chose Project Flamingo to support this year, because we believe that it is such an issue at this particular moment in time. And any help that we can provide to you guys to continue the brilliant work you're doing, we will absolutely give. Well, that is all of my questions. So thank you so much for taking the time to talk to me today, Lou. It's been a genuine pleasure. And hopefully we'll see a few of you in the race who've been watching this interview. Take care. We'll see you soon.
Thanks so much, Ryan. Appreciate it.